This is 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning and good afternoon. A man and 3 children have been found safe after a major police search on the New South Wales south coast. The 7 News chopper spotted the 42-year-old on a yacht in Batemans Bay before lunchtime. There were concerns he'd left home after an argument with his partner. He had his 13-year-old son with him and 2 family friends, a 14-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy. Family and friends of Kirsty Bowden, who was killed in the London Bridge terror attack, will say their final farewells at a funeral this afternoon. Her parents, brother and partner will be among those attending the private service in her hometown of Loxton, northeast of Adelaide. The 28-year-old nurse was killed as she rushed to help those injured in the attack earlier this month. Pakistan's Prime Minister has vowed to avenge every drop of blood spilled in the country's Easter Sunday massacre. Grieving families have begun burying the 70 people killed in the Lahore suicide bombing. The Taliban detonated its explosive as children were lining up to ride the bumper cars. 29 children are among the dead. Another 340 people were injured. A candlelight vigil has been held for the victims. The bombing targeted Pakistan's minority Christian community, but many Muslims were also killed. Syria has released images of the damage done by Islamic State fighters to the ancient city of Palmyra, seized last year. A drone took the pictures of the historic site after Syrian forces recaptured the area. They destroyed precious artefacts and temples with dynamite and smashed many others. The latest images show some colonnades and structures remain. The United Nations has described the destruction as a war crime. 2 people have been rushed to hospital after a stabbing attack in Victoria's Gippsland region. The incident happened at Moe a short time ago when a man entered a business and stabbed 2 men in the building. One has life-threatening injuries, the other is in a serious condition. The attacker fled and was later found dead. It's understood all 3 knew each other. A tourist boat has sunk in Colombia. 9 people have drowned and 30 other people are missing. The ferry is seen lurching onto its side before sinking in a reservoir in the country's northwest. Witnesses told local media the boat broke in 2, with the captain telling all passengers to rush to one side. There were about 150 people on board. Those who were rescued told investigators they weren't provided with life jackets. Rescue workers in Pakistan say a tanker explosion which killed at least 150 people was sparked by a cigarette. Local villagers had rushed to collect leaking fuel after the tanker crashed, when the oil ignited into a huge fireball. Army helicopters have been sent to the area to help retrieve the injured. Many are in a critical condition and there are fears more people will die. Another car has crashed into a crowd in England, injuring at least 6 people, but it's not believed to be terror-related. 3 children are among those taken to hospital after the crash outside a sports centre in Newcastle. Hundreds of Muslims were gathered there as part of celebrations marking the end of Ramadan. Witnesses say the female driver lost control of her vehicle. The accident occurred less than a week after Muslim worshippers were attacked in North London. A candlelight vigil is being held in Melbourne tonight to mark 1 year since Jill Maher's murder. Her family and friends are attending the memorial at Brunswick Baptist Church. It'll be followed by a march towards the city. 30,000 people attended last year's march. Jill's husband Tom has angrily criticised Victoria's legal aid system after her killer Adrian Bailey unsuccessfully appealed his non-parole term yesterday. He says it's a waste of public money. Police forces around the world are on the lookout for the British woman known as the White Widow. Samantha Luthwaite has been placed on Interpol's most wanted list at Kenya's request. The 29-year-old is believed to be involved in the terror group which carried out the deadly attack on the shopping mall in Nairobi. She's also wanted in Kenya on explosive charges dating back 2 years. Her husband was one of the 4 bombers involved in the 2005 London Underground terror attack. Specialist divers have discovered human remains around the badly damaged hull of the Costa Concordia in Italy. Local authorities believe the bodies are a missing Italian passenger and an Indian waiter. DNA tests will determine if they're the last of the 32 victims. Salvage crews had been waiting for the water to clear after the massive operation to right the cruise liner last week. Investigators will now search for computers, which may explain why backup equipment failed to work when the liner ran aground. In breaking news, the case against the Australian mother accused of murdering a Bali police officer has entered its next phase. Police have just handed their case against Sarah Connor and her British boyfriend David Taylor to prosecutors as the couple prepared to stand trial for the murder of Officer Wayan Sudasa. The Byron Bay woman is also due to be transferred to the notorious Korobakan prison either today or in the next few days. A police officer is in a serious condition after being shot in the face during an armed hold-up at a Gold Coast tavern. Two of the alleged offenders were also wounded in the shootout. 7 News reporter Emmy Kabansky joins me live from the Gold Coast. Emmy, how did this incident unfold?
Anne, good morning.
Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, Anne.
Anne, good morning to you too.
Hello again, Anne.
Police are appealing for information following the death of a man in Sydney last night. The 60-year-old was found lying unconscious and bleeding in Church Street Mall at Parramatta around 9:30 p.m. Paramedics treated him at the scene before taking him to hospital. He died a short time later. It's believed he was assaulted. Police have formed Strike Force O'Sullivan to investigate his death. Police have charged a man over the murder of Candice Pearce, the little girl whose remains were found in a suitcase by the side of a highway in South Australia. Daniel Holdham was arrested by homicide detectives at Sydney Silverwater Jail. The 41-year-old was charged in October with the murder of Candice's mother, Carly Pearce Stevenson. Police will allege the mother and daughter were murdered in New South Wales in 2008. Carly's remains were discovered in the Belangolo State Forest 5 years ago. The pair was buried together in Alice Springs last week. A teenager has been charged over a large bushfire in Newcastle, north of Sydney yesterday, which forced the evacuation of a Boy Scouts camp. The 16-year-old's facing 4 arson offences and will appear in court next month. 3 other teenagers were arrested but have since been released. Soaring temperatures and strong winds on the state's mid-north coast yesterday kept crews busy, with properties coming under threat in Taree and the Great Lakes areas. Conditions have now eased, helping firefighters gain the upper hand over dozens of blazes still burning. Firefighters are at the scene of a major blaze at a property in Sydney's northwest. Neighbours noticed the fire at the Cherrybrook home this morning. They were concerned the elderly female resident was trapped inside and tried to fight the flames with garden hoses, but were forced back by exploding gas bottles. When firefighters arrived, they confirmed no one was inside. Thick white smoke could be seen for several kilometres and a section of roof collapsed. Crews managed to stop the fire spreading to neighbouring properties. The Treasurer's first mid-year budget review shows a deterioration in deficits. The 2015-16 budget deficit forecast has been increased to $37.4 billion, up from the $35.1 billion predicted by former Treasurer Joe Hockey in May. The timing of a return to surplus has been pushed back a year to 2020-21. Falling commodity prices, low wages growth and volatile stock markets are being blamed. 150 firefighters have battled to contain a huge blaze at an apartment block being built in the US state of Arizona. The blaze broke out early in the morning. Flames spread quickly through the complex in Gilbert and could be seen several kilometres away. 4 buildings were destroyed. No one was inside at the time, but residents living nearby were evacuated from their homes as a precaution. A man's due to face court today charged with torching a Western Sydney office block. Firefighters were called to the vacant building in Parramatta around 8:30 last night. Flames and smoke caused extensive damage to the property before crews were able to control the blaze. A 21-year-old man was arrested in a nearby street and charged with damaging property by fire or explosion. 2 men are on the run after they shot a resident of a caravan park in Brisbane South. The 54-year-old man is in a critical condition after he was shot up to 4 times at the Sunnybank Hills residence around 5 o'clock this morning. The men were heard arguing before the shooting. The suspects fled the scene in a vehicle. Knives, a baseball bat and a tree branch were used as weapons during an organised brawl in Melbourne last night. It happened in the McDonald's car park at St Albans. 4 17-year-olds are in hospital with stab wounds. Witnesses say around 20 teens were involved. 4 men are being treated for facial injuries after a street brawl in Sydney's inner west last night. Police and paramedics were called to the scene at Strathfield after reports of fighting just after midnight. The 4 men, all in their 20s, were treated at the scene and then taken to hospital. A witness said up to 8 people were involved. One of Australia's most wanted men has been arrested in New South Wales. 29-year-old Jade Shakow was found hiding under a child's bed near Windsor. He was taken to Windsor Police Station, where he was charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm relating to a domestic violence incident last year. Family members have paid their respects to Thailand's king following his death. His 2 children, the Crown Prince and Princess, have visited the body of their father, who died on Thursday after 70 years on the throne. The Crown Prince will now take the throne, but the coronation won't be held until the end of the official 1-year mourning. Around 3,000 people held a minute's silence to honour the king. Conditions will ease in Queensland today after a rare spring heatwave. Records tumbled in parts of the state yesterday, with some towns hitting 40 degrees. Temperatures today are expected to be at least 5 degrees cooler, a slight reprieve before the heat returns next week. And it seems like a world away in Victoria, where residents are cleaning up after being lashed by gale-force winds and torrential rain. The SES responded to more than 1,600 calls for help. A man's described the moment he was assaulted after confronting a suspected thief in Sydney. He noticed the man outside his vehicle in Blacktown last night and began questioning him. He says that's when the alleged offender became aggressive. Family and neighbours rushed to help, detaining the suspect until police arrived. He's been charged and will face court in August. Police officers who've sacrificed their lives in the line of duty are being honoured across the country. National Police Remembrance Day pays tribute to hundreds of officers who've died protecting the community. Services are being held around Australia, including a ceremony at the National Police Memorial in Canberra. Police and paramedics are concerned a powerful drug which causes extreme hallucinations could cause chaos on the Gold Coast. 16 people were treated for overdoses over the weekend. 2 of them are in induced comas. 200,000 people are heading to the coast this weekend for the supercars, and 30,000 schoolies will descend on the area in a month's time. They're waiting on toxicology results to confirm which synthetic drug they're dealing with. Astonishing video has emerged of a Hercules pilot performing a dangerously low flyby over the top of onlookers at a base in Antarctica. The 77-ton aircraft nosedives towards the support crew on the ground before the Argentine pilot pulls out of it just in time to cruise over their heads. The stunt, called flat hatting, has been criticised by other pilots as foolish and reckless. Data stored on the iPhone of one of the San Bernardino shooters has been accessed without Apple's help. The FBI had launched legal action to force Apple to disable password protection and allow police access to the phone. Apple claimed it would betray the security and privacy of all customers. The US Justice Department says it no longer requires their help. The phone belonged to Rizwan Farouk, who died with his wife after killing 14 people and wounding 22 others in December. A new report has declared the Great Barrier Reef is worth $56 billion to the Australian economy. Accounting firm Deloitte Access Economics found the reef supports 64,000 full-time jobs and is worth the equivalent of 12 opera houses. It also found 60% of Australians would be willing to pay to protect the reef. The report warns of huge economic consequences unless more is done to save the reef from the effects of climate change. A Queensland police officer's mounted camera has captured the moment he was rammed by a car southwest of Brisbane. The officer was riding a patrol motorcycle attempting to pull over a speeding driver. The car reversed towards him, forcing him to veer to the side of the road. The vehicle then accelerated forward, striking him from behind before fleeing. Police are still hunting the driver. Time to check the financial markets, and the Australian share market has opened higher today after Wall Street ended its 5-day losing streak. The ASX 200 is currently up 15 points. And the Aussie dollar is buying just over 93.5 US cents, 92 Japanese yen and $1.13 New Zealand. Hawthorn has made just one change ahead of tomorrow's AFL Grand Final against Fremantle, replacing injured Brendan Whitecross with Jonathan Simpkin. AFL reporter Nathan Templeton is in Melbourne, where the Grand Final parade is about to begin. Nathan, hello again. How are the Hawks placed for tomorrow?
Maybe the Dockers to cause a bit of an upset.
Oh, there you go. It's going to be a fantastic Grand Final. Nathan, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Leonie Ryan reporting there. Thank you very much, Leonie. Sure to be moving. Thank you very much, Paul. Chris Marr reporting. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much, Emmy. Emmy Kabansky reporting from the Gold Coast. Chris Reason reporting from Sydney. Thank you very much, Chris. Katrina Blowers. Thank you very much, Katrina. Justin Smoke from Westpac. Thank you very much, Justin. All right. Martin Leckers from Macquarie. Thank you very much, Martin. Bill Evans from Westpac. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thanks, Anne.
Animal lovers are paying tribute to the world's oldest giant panda in captivity, who's died aged 38. Jia Jia far surpassed the usual lifespan for her species, living to the equivalent of 114 human years. In recent weeks, her health had worsened rapidly, leaving keepers at Hong Kong's Ocean Park with no choice but to put her down. Staff say she was a member of their family, an important animal ambassador, and will be deeply missed. Watching a polar bear cub sleep doesn't sound very exciting, but these pictures are some of the cutest we've seen. Keepers at Columbus Zoo filmed the 5-week-old cub in various stages of sleep. She can't fully open her eyes yet, but is still adorable as she cuddles her stuffed moose, snores, snuffles and stretches. Not surprisingly, the video is an online hit, with fans eagerly awaiting the next instalment. And no, you cannot have one. Some migrating humpbacks have put on a spectacular show off Sydney this morning as they cruise back to cooler waters in Antarctica. A pod of 4 splashed and rolled their way past Coogee. They'd been up north breeding in warmer waters. The National Parks and Wildlife Service says humpback numbers are up by 50% on last year. Let's get a check of the weather forecast now. Brownie, you have some good news for skiers.
Indeed I do, Anne, and good morning to you. More details at 4 o'clock.
Many thanks, Brownie. And that's 7 News to Now. We'll keep you up to date right throughout the day. I'm Ann Sanders. Thanks for your company. Have a good day. And have a good day. And have a good day. And have a great weekend. Bye for now.